I am excited to have my friend of the show, John Iadarola. He is an award-winning host of The Damage Report, The Young Turks, and a climate change docuseries, True North. John, thanks for joining me, man.
How's it going? I'm glad to be on.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Shout out to the Dragon Squad. I already know. I don't see the chat room, but I know once you're here, the Dragon Squad is going to be sending up a whole lot of love in the chat room. Listen, so. I'm going to be joining you tomorrow, and we just have so many. It's wild right now. Like this weekend, I really just want to get your feeling and your gut feeling on like how absurd it is for two things: for them not to call witnesses this weekend, but then also the fact that we just can't seem to hold powerful people accountable in this country. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess the silver lining on the second part is that at least we can't hold powerful people accountable for basically the same reasons we haven't been able to. Like just there aren't enough what tools have, whatever norms, whatever legal recourse we have, the Constitution, all of those are just as ill-fitted to the time as they were the first time he was impeached, or, you know, like we don't have the tools. And I don't know, maybe it's kind of good that we weren't able to convict him because we don't want people are already predisposed to like sort of be lulled into a false sense of a return to normalcy with Biden. Trump actually being convicted might lead them to believe that there is something that is fundamentally changed in America when little actually has yet. We still have to do that. In terms of the witnesses, that was the thing that really bothered me the most, because I had been fully ready, as I'm sure you were, for Trump to get off. But the Dems decided, no, what we're going to do is we're going to tease you right before the end. We're going to make you think, oh, my God, wait, are they actually going to do this thing that they definitely should have done from the very beginning? And with all the stuff that had come out with Kevin McCarthy and all that, oh, my God, there might be an opening. And then they backed off. And then he was acquitted. So they found a way to do worse than I went in thinking they're going to fail like they always do. And they found a way to do worse than that.
It's good. And here's the thing, like, you know, the fact that it requires a supermajority, right, to hold the president of the United States accountable is a structural problem that everyone expected for Donald Trump to get off. It is the lack of due diligence that really underscores what you're saying there. You're saying that, you know, Democrats in a way found a way to even like underperform our low bar. Like we have a low bar in this country. The bar is basically, can we at least have the appearance of due diligence and due process and justice? And at this juncture, America is saying, or at least the leaders of this country are just simply saying no.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, in the Senate, at least, like it was one thing where it set up, like you're talking about sort of structural impediments to change, like for anything to even have a chance of working, the Dems have to control basically everything. And to even get to that, they have to pass not only the additional levels of structural democratic inequality in terms of voter suppression and gerrymandering and all of that, but the fundamental baked in ones, like the fact that the Senate is fundamentally unrepresentative and provides a ton more unbought, unearned power to the Republicans. But even once we get past that, then, that was great. Great work there. Great work, all the activists working in states like Georgia and all that. You did a great job. But, also the filibuster. So now it's already difficult enough for the Democrats to get 51%. They have to earn like 60% of the vote to get 51% of the power, and 60% isn't enough. And the biggest insult, of course, is that while, of course, the Republicans don't want the Dems to get rid of the filibuster, which I get, it's Kristen Sinema, it's Joe Manchin, it's potentially Feinstein who are stopping them from getting rid of it. So those senators have agreed that if the Republicans win, the Republicans rule. If the Republicans lose, the Republicans rule. Nothing changes, which is terrible for most of America, but it's perfectly fine for the section of America that doesn't really need anything to change, that's doing perfectly fine. And they will apparently win no matter who wins the elections.
Right. And this is the absurdity of it all, right? So like What are we supposed to do when every channel of power that we try to respect in order to accomplish our goals is disrespected not only by our opposition, but even by some people? Like you said, Joe Manchin is one of the biggest impediments to progress in this country right now, especially because the Senate is so locked in 50-50. Like, what do we do at that juncture?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess we're supposed to make, like theoretically, we're supposed to make sure that the Democrats win the House and the Senate, which in many cases means we have to make sure that the Democrats win governor's races so they can appoint secretaries of state. So there's a little bit less voter suppression in some of these states. We probably also have to win the state legislatures to make sure that these states aren't passing, you know, like insane anti-voting, like voter ID laws and stopping mail-in voting and stopping the ballot drops and all that. So we have to win all of those levels. We have to make sure, obviously, that we have a Democratic president, because a Republican president would veto everything. And then we also have to go back through all of those wins that we just had and weed out all of the Democrats that are really there to protect the same interests as the Republicans. So we have to go and we have to primary Sinema, and we have to primary Manchin, we have to get rid of Feinstein. And then we have to hope that after we do that, you know, whoever like Hickenlooper or some, like whoever will be the next wannabe Manchin won't suddenly pop up. I mean, we are assailed on all sides. And so that's a little bit depressing. And I know for some people, this is the last thing they want to be hearing, because they feel like, well, we just got past Trump. We just got past that dark period, and the Dems won the Senate. Look what happened in Georgia and all that. But the battle continues. It's almost like we're fighting in a democratic fractal. Like whenever you think you've won, it suddenly splinters off into smaller subversions of the battles you've already been waging.
Wow. Man, there's so many different ways I want to go with that, because that's actually a great, it's almost like we have fallen into a Pandora's box of chasing after an opportunity to do good in this country. And structurally, from the Constitution itself to the Senate, to the people who are in power currently, they are actively working against that progress. I want to play a clip. We've already played it this morning, of Lindsey Graham. And in this clip, he really he laments the idea of accountability, right? So he's looking all sad and depressed, like Lindsey Graham normally does, when he wants to pretend as if he's an empathetic human being instead of this narcissistic sociopath bootlicker that he is. But I digress. The point is that he's acting solemn, but he's also issuing a very direct threat, in my opinion, because he's letting it be known that if Republicans get power again, that they are going to, impeach Kamala Harris in regards to the January 6th incident, as if the people who went to Congress and raided the Capitol, as if they were actually like in league with Kamala versus in league with him. Let's take a look at that clip real quick.
The trial record was a complete joke, hearsay upon hearsay, and we've opened Pandora's box to future presidents. And if you use this model, I don't know how Kamala Harris doesn't get impeached if the Republicans take over the House, because she actually bailed out rioters, and one of the rioters went back to the streets and broke somebody's head open. So we've opened Pandora's box here, and I'm sad for the country.
So he's clearly conflating two incidents, right? He's clearly trying to muddy the waters so that people can identify which protest or which quote unquote riot he's talking about. But I also see a very thinly veiled threat here. What are your thoughts in terms of Lindsey Graham in general, but also the very reality that Republicans, they'll impeach Joe Biden or Kamala Harris if they sneeze without covering their hands, covering their faces?
Yeah. If it's veiled, it's a very thin veil indeed. That's not going to get you past, like, you can't veil something on Instagram and expect it to be allowed with that sort of veil. Yeah, and he's very sad, Ben. Oh, it's just so sad if this might happen to Kamala Harris, who, after all, was the villain of the 6th. I remember those chants. Sometimes I have nightmares. Hang Mike Pence. The K-Hive rules. I remember, and just I think it's important that history remembers. No, I don't. Like, I'm not even a massive fan of Kamala Harris. I mean, I'm glad she's the vice president, but she wasn't my candidate in the primary or anything. The idea that she was responsible, and he doesn't believe it. None of them believe it. One of the things, it's not the biggest challenge that we face, but one of the things that makes facing that challenge so dirty is that we are operating in a field of people that are fundamentally operating in bad faith, that everybody is lying about everything that they say. He's lying about what Kamala Harris did. He's lying about what he feels about what Kamala Harris did. Right. He's even lying about what the Republicans will do. The Republicans will and always were going to try to impeach for whatever BS made up reason if they feel they can get away with it. Marjorie Greene filed those papers to impeach Biden on the first day, and I defy her to explain why. I don't think that she can actually do it. And the Dems who will use the specter of things like them impeaching Kamala Harris to say, well, let's not do this because then we'll be setting a precedent that the Republicans will use. We'll be opening that door and the Republicans will walk through it. Republicans don't need open doors to pursue power or to pursue their interests. That's what they do. They know how to do that because they get that this is politics. This isn't fun times. The Democrats still think this is just fun times. And so I don't know if they're actually going to do that if they take power, but I do know that they're going to do whatever they want if they take power. And I wish that the Democrats would learn that lesson.
Absolutely. Which brings me to the clip I saw this weekend of Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, saying that we need a strong Republican Party, as if the only option for our democracy is a two-party system, which is, to me, the problem itself. But the absurdity of it, right? For in the middle of this lack of being able to hold anybody accountable, pandemic, 500,000 people dead, and a good part of that is because of a strong Republican Party. Like, I don't even know how she thinks that the Republican Party isn't strong when they're literally holding America. I can't finish that sentence without getting in trouble. So they're holding America hostage. There we go. They're holding America hostage at every single turn, but yet and still Nancy Pelosi is like, we need a strong Republican Party. They're too strong. What did you think when you saw that clip?
Well, I mean, look, they're certainly strong in that they do whatever they can get away with, and they understand that they can get away with a lot. The Democrats operate entirely inside of not just the rules, which, of course, we want a democracy to have rules, and the norms, which don't actually exist anymore. That's become clear during the Trump times, but also this belief that they have to be fair and they always have to be bipartisan. It doesn't matter how many times they're punched in the face by the Republicans. They hem themselves in on all sides with these multiple layers of restrictions. And that leads a lot of people to believe that they're doing that not because they think they actually have to, but because it's convenient as a way to not have to actually accomplish anything. The Republicans are strong in pursuing what they want to do. She, devil's advocate, might mean what we want is a serious other party. But when was the Republican Party that party? Okay, so you mean before QAnon, I assume, but what do you mean during the 90s? When they pretended that Bill Clinton getting a blowjob was the worst thing the country had ever seen? Was it during the 80s when they just deregulated everything and gave endless sums of money to the rich? Of course, that's also what they did under George W. Bush and Trump. That's sort of consistent. Was it even earlier than that? I mean, the whole period of just explicit appeals to racist white Southerners. Which Republican Party do you want to be strong again? I guess they mean something like, well, Eisenhower had a couple of good points about the military-industrial complex. That was 1 billion years ago, and it bears no relationship to the Republican Party. I think what we need is a strong Democratic Party that will beat the Republicans into submission until they finally learn the lesson that they keep implying after elections they will, which is they need to actually provide some sort of responsible platform. That is something they haven't done in a very long time. And we can then disagree on it. We can disagree on some of the base facts that inform our politics, but we don't have that. We don't have that. And she should worry less about the party she's not in charge of and more about the party that she's supposed to be in charge of.
That's a hell of a sentence right there. I think we should close it right there. John Iadarola of The Damage Report. You can always check that out right here on YouTube and Facebook and basically anywhere, as well as the Young Turks. John, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you. As always. Love your work.
Pleasure. Oh, man, appreciate you.